Hi, welcome again to Glass Garden Apothecary. This is my second video. Very excited. So today I'm going to show you how I make my headache tea or my migraine tea, depending on what you use. My husband used to have bad migraines, but you don't get them very often anymore, do you, honey? No, he said no. Alright, so the first herb we're going to talk about, the one that I'm going to talk about more in depth, is feverfew. Now, feverfew is called feverfew because in the olden days, people liked to take the whole, problem and call it the thing. So colds and anything like that was called, fever. And feverfew gets rid of headaches, inflammation, stuff like that. Not necessarily fevers, but it was named feverfew because it impacted a lot of the aches and pains and headaches that came along with the flu or a cold or something like that. So deceptively named, but that would be why. So feverfew. Alright, so feverfew grows like everywhere. It's a lot like chamomile. Actually, it's related to chamomile, and it looks a lot like it. It has little tiny daisy things. And it's good for a lot of stuff, while chamomile uses the flowers as its most important part. Feverfew uses the leaves and the stems, which is why it's, green stuff here. Alright, feverfew is good for a lot of things, but particularly we're going to talk about it being good for migraines. Most importantly, it's good for migraines over a period of time. It's not like you can drink feverfew tea and suddenly your migraine's gone. But if you drink it consistently, the amount of migraines and the severity of migraines you have should diminish. Studies have shown that it will diminish. Alright, so let's see, that's after I talked about that. I have notes here. You're wondering what I'm looking at. Alright, it has anti-inflammatory. It's actually good for asthma. It's also used as a bug repellent. That's exciting. Alright, so feverfew inhibits the production of serotonin. So serotonin is actually the happy chemical, but apparently serotonin is also a vasoconstrictor, which means it constricts the blood vessels in your brain, which is a lot of what causes a headache. So if you have too much serotonin, you're going to get a headache. If you have just the right amount of serotonin, you're in a good mood. Why can't, it all be different and all work properly, right? But alright, so also a warning here, don't consume a lot of feverfew if you take blood pillars, or be careful combining it with painkillers. So if you're on proper migraine medication, you might want to talk to your doctor first. And also, speaking of that, if you have consistent and constant migraines, you should see a doctor because they can be a sign of a more serious condition. So, feverfew, good for a lot of things, particularly today, good for migraines. So since feverfew is going to be the main herb in this thing, I'm going to put 2 big old heaping tablespoons here. Now, feverfew tastes terrible. It's a very bitter plant, so actually most medicinal herbs taste terrible. Why can't we have it all, unfortunately? Alright, chamomile. That's going to be the next herb that I put into my headache tea. Like I said, it looks a lot and is related to feverfew. But chamomile is a powerful nerve tonic. Basically, or nervine. Basically, it calms the nerves, calms you down. It's anti-inflammatory, it's anti-spasmodic, and it's also soothing. Which, when we all have headaches, you know why we have headaches? It's because we're stressed out. I'm going to put 2 nice tablespoons of chamomile because chamomile does not taste terrible. Chamomile actually tastes pretty good. You can just drink straight up chamomile. Good for headaches, good for sleeping, good for stress, good for most things. The next one I'm putting in here is willow. White willow. I use white willow in a lot of things. White willow is what aspirin is derived from. Actually, it's salicin, which is what makes aspirin, but willow bark doesn't actually have enough of it to really do anything. But for some fun reason, if you use all of the willow bark, it works really well. That's the fun thing about plants. What pharmaceuticals have done is that they've taken a plant and they have extracted one constituent, I think is the correct word, such as salicin, or the acid that makes aspirin. They take it out of the willow bark and it works great, but it upsets your stomach, it has other side effects. But willow bark, all by itself, usually doesn't have these bad side effects. That's what I was saying, the fun thing about plants is that they often contain within themselves things that counteract the side effects, making it sometimes less detrimental than taking more pharmaceutical drugs. Not that I'm saying don't take pharmaceutical drugs. Pharmaceutical drugs are important to a lot of people, but if you are using herbs, that is one of the benefits of using herbs, is that they contain within themselves more than just one thing. Now, I have powdered white willow bark, and I have bark of white willow bark. Now, the bark, it's difficult to make teas because you have to steep it for a really long time. And if you steep feverfew for a really long time, it tastes really extra bad. So I use the willow bark powder because I don't want you to steep it forever. And it will mix in the water better, and you can actually consume the constituents properly. So since it is a powder, I'm just going to use 1 tablespoon of the white willow bark powder and let that get on in there and coat the other plants. And so when you put it in a tea bag, it hopefully makes it through the fabric of the tea bag and into your tea, and then you can consume it as effectively as you like. Alright. And one thing that's better than aspirin about willow bark is that it's antiseptic, it's antioxidant, it's immune boosting, it has flavonoids and polyphenols, whatever that means. I looked up flavonoids. Flavonoid is a chemical that helps with antioxidizing your body. You know what? I don't really know. But the book lists that as a good thing, so Google that. Flavonoid. It's spelled Flavanoid. I think I can't read my own handwriting. So, alright, the next plant I'm going to put in here is skullcap. Now, by the name, you can tell what it does. Skullcap. It has to do with your brain and your head. I did not put a tablespoon of white willow bark. I put a teaspoon because this is not my tablespoon. So I'm going to actually add just a little bit more because I used the wrong spoon. That happens when you don't put things in the proper spot. So this is not a heaping tablespoon. So a heaping teaspoon and then a non-heaping teaspoon is what I put in there. Taking a whole bunch of white willow bark can mess up your stomach most probably. So you should not use a whole bunch. Now, skullcap. Skullcap helps with nervous tension. It encourages the flow of energy and stress in your body. So it should help with tension headaches and nervous headaches. And like me, I get tension in my shoulders. That's what gives me headaches. Sometimes I add St. John's wort to my headache tea, but I don't add it with the feverfew because St. John's wort encourages the production of serotonin, whereas feverfew discourages the production of serotonin. So what would be the point of combining them? Alright, so skullcap. Skullcap gets a nice fat tablespoon. Yes, I used the tablespoon this time. Alright, and for fun and calmness, because most people get headaches from stress, we're going to do lavender. Lavender is a lovely herb. I'm going to do a big fat, those are my dogs barking outside. I'm going to do a big fat double tablespoon of this herb, lavender, because lavender tastes good and it doesn't really do many bad things. So I would put a lot of it in there to hide the taste of the nasty ones, such as feverfew and St. John's. Well, I didn't put St. John, but feverfew and skullcap and willow bark. So chamomile and lavender taste great. Alright, the last guy we're going to put in here is valerian. In my last video I talked about valerian and all its good qualities, but boy, it smells bad, it tastes bad, it's awful. But it normalizes the nervous system, it is neuroprotective, and it is good for muscle tension. All of those things would be good for someone that gets really bad headaches. So I'm going to check what I'm going to put in here. I'm going to put half a teaspoon of my valerian. Ugh. Powdered valerian. These have in root form, which I think I like better because the powdered stuff just gets everywhere and you never get rid of the smell. It smells like feet or wet dog. It's not fun. Alright, so those are all the things that I put in my headache tea. Now, this isn't going to taste good. Now if I up the lavender and chamomile, it might taste better and it would probably put you to sleep. What my husband did with my headache tea is that he put it in his coffee. So the water that he brewed the coffee with, or if he used a French press, he would just dump it all in there together and then strain it out. So he couldn't taste it. It was just, extra bitter because coffee's bitter anyways. You can do that. You could add tea to it like I did last time. I like to add mint, rose, those types of teas to things. Those types of teas that won't really counteract any of the other herbs. You might try some spicy tea. Clove, cinnamon, things like that. That kind of gets the blood flowing. Those warm herbs, those warm barks and plants would get the blood flowing, which would also probably help with the headache. So, that is what you can do for the headache tea. And that is my headache tea. That is feverfew, chamomile, white willow, skullcap, lavender, and valerian. Again, if you have headaches and migraines, you should see a doctor about them because those can be indications of a more serious condition. Again, I'm not prescribing or treating any illnesses. I'm simply sharing teas that I make that help myself and my friends. So, next week I should be doing a video either on an anti-inflammatory tea, because I'm getting some joint pain in my 30s and I don't like it, or my tea that's really good for periods. Not sure which one I'll do, but I'm going to do one of those. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe because I hope to keep this channel going. Thank you.